All right, great. I think we're gonna come to order. In lieu of the gavel, which is sadly missing today. So first order is to approve the minutes from last month. So obviously only the people that were here last month can vote on this. Oh, sure, we can do the vote.
Mark Giaconia,
Here.
Larry Willett,
Here.
Barbara Segaloff,
Present.
Nick Webb,
Here.
Kristen Waterbury, Mary Jo Phelps, Joan Ulate.
Here.
All right. So now we can go through the approval of the minutes. You took the minutes. last
I
week.
did, so.
And it was great.
Approve, can I make a motion to approve my own minutes?
I
That
think-
doesn't seem right.
Well, maybe I should make, or
Larry,
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
I've reviewed it, yep.
Okay,
So is there any discussion on the minutes? No? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All abstaining? Motion carries unanimously.
you have to abstain, right? Yeah, abstain.
Yeah, I abstain too, right? Yeah. Mark did. So we continue, so in terms of my comments, just, we continue to inch closer on the, property acquisition. This past month at the, land trust meeting, I got approval to spend $5,000 on additional surveyor work. And that takes two forms. One is to sink 4 additional pins that do a better job of delineating the northern boundary. And then the second piece is to map out the trail that we would use to cross Eversource's property to the new property. It has all the things, you know, they have to live up to what Eversource requires. So that was signed. I talked to the surveyor this morning, who has it on his list and should be done within a week. And so that will allow two things to happen. One is we can go back to Deep and say, hey, here we go. We've now done the survey. Let's start moving on to other elements. And then the second is to allow us to go back to Eversource and say, hey, here's the path we want to take and get approval. So we sort of, I expect in the next week, we'll really start to move this thing forward. The final issue is the incursions on the property. We can't actually take legal action on it until we own the property. So there's only so much we can do, but our lawyer, the lawyer of the land trust, has been in communication with the lawyer of Evergreen, and we'll see where it goes. I'm hopeful. I mean, I had made a proposal that, hey, we won't enforce the quitclaim until, you know, these guys move and, or the shed falls down. And we'll see if that is taken. If not, there's a chance we have to carve out a little bit extra, get a resurvey of that piece, and then a new appraisal and get that. Yeah, that's plan B. I would prefer plan A. And it does see, I don't know if you had any luck, looking through the aerial maps, historical aerial maps.
There's really no, there's sort of no permitting that was done, and because they're so close on the boundaries.
Yeah,
I mean, you know, so it's been decades that this stuff has been
right.
pushing, and so there's no other, it's just not that detailed. The resolution for
You can't
these
do
teeny
it.
tiny, especially for the lawn encroachments and stuff is really hard, the sheds are really easy.
Well, the sheds are the big thing, because lawn incursion, who cares?
Right. But you know, they predate any of the zoning enforcement that could be taken on them, so like, it's not, you can't accept it as there, but it's. The way the aerial is aligned to the property lines, it's not exact, so, but either way, I'm like, I'm trying to put the earliest. I mean, certainly the 2019s, and that's the earliest we have in-house. I don't think I saw them in the 2010s, I'd have to go back and look.
Okay.
But, yeah.
Yeah, and 2010 does us no good because it's like 15 years as kind of the, where they do claim adverse possession, so.
The Connecticut aerial imagery.
Well, I looked at Eco and I just don't remember what year I first saw it. A blip that
I
looked
think
like
that thing goes to like 2004.
It does, and some of the imagery is better than others, and then you can get, there's
Yeah.
larger grid maps that go back farther than that, but.
Yeah, I mean, if you were to find that that shed did not exist, or those sheds, there's two sheds, did not exist prior to 2010, you know, that gives our lawyer a lot of ammunition. So. Anyway, that's sort of where we are on all three of those issues. I look forward to hearing about where we are on composting. And if there's any updates on any of the textile recycling, and then obviously are we getting back to sustainable Connecticut again? Okay, so we'll hear all about that today. So that's all I have to say today. So in terms of old business, anything to do with residential food composting?
That I know of. Did Blue Earth ever give you any schools that they're currently servicing?
They haven't followed up,
Okay,
nothing back from the schools, I don't know if the email that I shared for Marianne, if anybody has done any other school
I
outreach.
saw that, yes.
So I've heard nothing back on either front, you know, what I was hoping was that we would at least get waste disposal cost from the schools, so we could bring that to Blue Earth and have a new assessment to say, here's what your potential savings could be, but try to put some dollars to this. Nothing. Yeah.
I found a thing on the Connecticut Deep website that it's a manual for school composting. Food scrap recycling. That was developed by Manchester, the Manchester School District. Would that be of any help to send to Marianne or?
And maybe
should I send it to
for
you?
back, yeah, if you send it to me, I think for background information, I think it's great, and it could just be. Things are busy, let's ping this again, right?
Right.
Or, you know, would you,
True.
you know, would you be willing to have another conversation, is this a dead? Tell us if it's a dead issue, but it was something we can talk about doing at the elementary level.
Right.
Because that seems to be a little past the.
Right.
These, and it, you know, and there's other programs that exist besides Blue Earth, and you know, sort of unilaterally.
Right.
There's Epic, WaterCog on a way, just municipal waste disposal conversations, or talk about what the challenges are, with respect to the sustainability committees and town staff. And, you know, other districts are looking at Blue Earth, but the cost is the prohibitive element here, and I think that's.
Right. Aren't they gonna do some sort of thing where Ned Lamont has announced a new like composting area down here somewhere that makes it somewhat less expensive?
If he has, I don't know about it, so I will have to look, but it's.
And can Marianne give us any kind of number? What is? How much waste is generated from the public schools?
Well, that's what I was looking for, right? To say, because if you said, this is what it is, and this is how much of that is food waste, you know,
Sure.
by the pound, by the ton,
Right.
this is what your anticipated, you know,
Right.
number could be. I was, you know, it's, I feel like it's not, we've got to tell that story, or it's not.
Otherwise, yeah, it doesn't work
Right.
because,
So I was gonna chat and see if I could communicate to the business manager and do it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, see if we can, I'll try again.
Sure. Well, it is, you know, we're all, it's budget season, so that's what everybody's focused on.
yeah, well. This, there's an outside chance this could be a cost savings for them.
Right,
Yeah, but keep the trays out of the conversation.
Right,
So I think
Anything on textile recycling?
Yeah, so January, we're starting to slow down a little bit, and that could be partially weather related,
Yeah.
partially it's, you know, we had a big push to sort of tell people about it, and it kind of died off, so I mean. A good idea to do some additional discussion. It's another outreach to the schools to see if there's any interest in having a bin at one of the school locations or around the sports fields or something like that. So now that we have experience working with Bay State Textiles, and know that, you know, they pick up frequently and, you know, if we have a problem, call them, they'll be here.
Right.
I'm hoping that, you know, Todd can kind of sing their praises a little bit and then, you know, because, you know, this isn't gonna be a bin that's kind of junky and sort of sits. I think that the fear is that if it's not monitored, we're gonna get things like mattresses or stuff that doesn't
Right.
fall out of this, and so that's, you know. But if I think if we had another location, well, and Bay State's hoping that we'll, you know, sort of grow the number of places people can drop. Last month, January, there were 860 pounds of materials, that's down from like 1,100 pounds in our highest month. So that's where we're at.
I gotta make another deposit.
I was telling a friend of mine about, she didn't know about the textile recycling program. She commented that she doesn't know where anything is
Yeah,
at the, and would it be possible to produce just a rough map that we could have on the town website?
Yeah, I think there's a picture of the bin, but I will see, I can probably say.
I'm just thinking the whole thing.
Right, drive it, follow this path, right?
Yeah.
right.
Like where this is and where that is.
Yes, and we talked about doing a video at some point, you know, that we would had sort of put up on the website or whatever, but it was like, hey, here's my mega compost and here's my textile recycling, I'm gonna dump this here and this over here.
Here's where I go for battery, I mean, you
Yeah,
know.
I'll watch my dash cam as I drive in, right? It's not scary.
That's great.
Cause I had some of those old tubes, you know, the light tubes down in the basement, fluorescent light tubes, and, yeah, they've got a spot for those too.
Right.
It's like, it's amazing what they take, so,
Yeah,
yeah. I was actually gonna write an article for the, you know, that quarterly
Yes,
magazine, yeah, and I don't know if that's worthwhile.
I think
But
it
I
is, it
started.
really is.
You think so?
You know, it's funny, we actually had a lot of folks that wind up, because, you know, Kathy in our office does an article every single time, for zoning and like, you know, random stuff, but. We're always surprised at the number of people who see it and call in or have a question or.
Okay,
you know,
that's great.
Yeah.
So I will do it,
Yeah.
I actually started it.
About the land purchase or?
Just the overall, no, the waste transfer station, I was gonna say, and all the things it does.
Right.
Because it is remarkable, all the things that are there, and people don't know it. If you have lithium batteries, for instance, you know, there's recycling for all of that stuff.
Yeah, it'd be good to like draft it and run it by Todd, so hey, Todd, we're not asking you to draft it, but you know, are you good with this?
Yeah.
Check them out, right? You know?
Exactly.
Yeah, be good.
All right, cool. So I think it's over to you, Abby, on the sustainable CT certification program.
Yeah, so, the committee is moving, so there's a couple part process, so. We're working, Katie Mader, who's one of the full-time fellows at, Sustainable CT, happens to live in Madison, so it's easy for her to come to meetings, which is wonderful.
Oh.
So we're getting a little bit of extra pre-support, you know, have access to fellows within the summer as well. But yeah, this is our recertification year, and so right now, the committee is working to see if we can make an April submission for bronze. And so we're at bronze right now, and the idea being, if we can get to bronze now, we take the pressure off, and then perhaps. Because then we're recertified, we're into another 3-year cycle when we're set. And then let's see, you know, up our points, go around to all the various boards and commissions, go, you know, hold some more events, grab some more points in other places and try to get to silver. And so that's and so looking at silver for potentially fall.
Who's the point person, right? That is that.
So Sue and Brett are starting.
Brett.
Yeah, they are. Brett's been a little bit more active. They are looking to step away and have somebody else step into that role. I'm not sure who is up for it right now. But they have been so organized and so
Yeah,
incredible.
Sue's great.
Yeah,
Oh,
they're
And
phenomenal.
Brett too.
Yeah.
It's just so.
Yes, but they're phenomenal. I mean, yeah, so it's a really like very detailed, very organized process, and I'm sure many are, you know, very, very specific. So we're working on that. What we'll probably do is at some point they'll be reaching out to say, okay, what are the you know, are there any other activities or thoughts you have on things you wanna do, but are there programs you may wanna think about? Is there any talk of doing like an invasive spring launch this year, that kind of stuff? So there's anything on the horizon. you wanna look at? This essentially.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think the mapping invasives would be something really interesting.
Mhm, yeah, and so far, that is as far as I know, it's still in the budget, so we should get the town manager's recommended budget back in the next couple weeks, so I will have markings, but.
Yeah, my sources have been away, so now that we're back, I can track it. All right. Any questions for Abby on that? No?
No, I was just gonna mention though, as an incentive to us moving forward with mapping invasives. The land trust at their last meeting, we're broaching the subject with, we have certain big areas of invasives in certain parts of our properties. And we had someone research how to get rid of it by chemical, expensive and not a guarantee. And then we had a presentation about goats.
Yeah,
Nice.
And you bring goats in, you rope off an area, and the goat herder will bring them in, ropes off an area, goats, the land.
You're gonna take-
Then, and then the goat droppings is like an added destruction because of whatever chemical is in the droppings. That ensures that it's not gonna grow back, and you do it 2 to 3 times, and then that whole area is gone.
yeah,
And of course, the last thing you're gonna do, because I also talked to people in Vermont who are using goats. And then you have to be ready to plant native plants in there as soon as that's gone.
Sure.
So there are certain
So
plants,
the others don't
that-
take root.
that's right. There are certain plants that will block out
Right.
those starting again. So the question is, if again, we're gonna explore it, do it, hopefully do it in one area, we're getting prices. If we do that, what do you think the town's response would be to Conservation Commission suggesting that once we ID these areas?
Mhm.
All right, what do you do now? You gotta get rid of it somehow.
mhm. I mean,
Well, the other thing is, could we do a joint land trust town? Hey, if the goats are in town, let's run them over to behind the
Let's
city
get on
hall.
their schedule.
well, right, yeah.
Could we get a 2-for-1 kind of deal?
And also you could have an event where parents could bring their
Yeah.
kids over to see the goats.
Oh, yeah, it's great, it's
And-
so much,
and-
fun, yeah.
And it's a great bio solution
Yeah.
to it, as opposed to using chemicals.
Is there a season, like, is it spring emergence that folks are looking at, like, which species is it?
You know what, I don't know that, so I don't wanna guess or speculate, so that's one of the things we're gonna have to, we're looking now to get them in to do a presentation.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We got their literature, for the goats,
Yeah.
not the goats, but the goat herder,
Weren't there some boats that got loose near the interstate?
that I don't know.
But yeah, they were out for a while, they're back home, or they're.
I think it was near 63 or 65.
Yeah, they were roaming for a while, yes, yes.
I guess that got loose.
So- In that instance, the goats were the invasive.
They were the invasive.
Yep.
but
So-
that may be something worth,
I think it's worth exploring. I don't know any grants off the top of my head, but I feel like from, the public outreach invade, like sort of
oh, yeah.
that part of it and sort of conservation commission's role in sort of sponsoring and kind of going in that direction would be really cool. I wonder if there's anything with like agricultural extension office kind of stuff or.
I'll look on the deep
Yeah.
website, see.
So, yeah, she was for it.
All right, because I mean, there's, we've had the knotweed out there forever.
Yep.
And there's no way cutting is gonna do it, you've gotta really get down.
Well, I mean, so the other thing, and it may work in tandem with the budgeting for the invasives, assuming we have that for time on, sort of the platform in which we add the data. I've been talking to one of the GIS professors at the University of Haven, and he is potentially coming in to see me this week. To talk about interns, GIS mapping interns, and kids do play with kids, but folks who do projects for us. And so some of the things that I have on the list are, identifying all the parking spaces to do a parking analysis for downtown, but that's one. But actually populating some of the invasives. The tree committee is interested in doing a tree inventory, some of these kinds of things, we can start to get the data created, it'll be helpful. So, we could add this to the list, it may not be in the first round of things, but it could be that, there's a fall class coming up, maybe a project, and we have a budget now, and so we have a platform created, now they can go out, collect the data, and provide some analysis for what they're finding.
Well, one of the other things that we need is. Assuming we can finally purchase this property. Is mapping out the trail and creating.
Yes.
Things, and I'm gonna go for a grant from the Middlesex Community Foundation for Boston.
Yep.
But it would be great.
Yep. But if there's any other trails mapping around, I don't still have a lot of that kind
Yeah.
of trails,
Right.
like creating the next thing,
Yeah.
and all that kind of stuff
Okay.
too, so if we had that base data, put everything together.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, so all of the land trust trails are on all trails, so they've done the map. So,
Yeah, it's great.
Oh.
yeah, they do.
I'm not sure.
Okay. Anything else? That was actually a really good point to bring up, Larry, it's a shot.
I just had a question about your invasive species, are you talking about the area where there's brackish water? Like in the wetlands?
Oh, the Phragmites, I don't think we can touch those.
Okay, I was gonna say, cause it's hard to get them out and put something else in.
You
It's
have to,
brackish water.
so our beach community has been suffering from Phragmites for quite a while.
So I remember a long time ago in Saybrook, they tried to put wildflowers back in and they took over again.
Yeah.
For all their work.
Oh, yeah, no,
Yeah.
you're not gonna. So we actually got approval, the beach community got approval to poison the Phragmites. I know, and it actually takes two different applications and then. We have to dig them out.
And what about wildlife
What about wildlife?
that, or fish or anything that?
Oh, in the Phragmites?
Yeah,
I don't know, I mean, they're invasive, so.
okay, but
There's typically the chemicals I put on to break down and sort of enter into sort of.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, there was a
That's not
time.
no impact at all.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, we can only do it at the end of the season, so,
okay.
like, I guess maybe whenever their spawning seasons, we could do that. So,
I think that's the important piece for this group is which invasives are
right,
the ones you're gonna target, right? What when you say invasives and what, there's so many out there, what are the one, is it just, knotweed, ailanthus and loosestrife, is it something else, like what, at some point, that's probably gonna get defined.
right.
So,
Okay, now we turn to Lori for any correspondence, and actually we have your issue from last month that we want to talk about too.
Yeah. That is the second annual Connecticut Land Conservation Conference.
Yes, unfortunately, I'm in Portugal, so somebody else could win.
What is it?
The Land Conservation Conference.
Oh,
I know the Land Trust is sending a number of.
Yeah, we're sending at least 3 or 4.
okay, are you going, Larry?
I can't make
There's
that.
talks about it. I believe it's-
But this is a good one. I mean, I look at the sessions and they've got 4 tracks going all the time. It really is.
I think they got one on invasive too, I guess.
They do, well, they have invasives and they've got funding issues, so I would be. I'm sad I can't make it, but it's not really that sad. Anyway, pass that around.
We're just wondering where it is. So that, oh, it's at Wesleyan,
Yeah, also,
it's at Wesleyan,
which,
Oh, Wesley, that's
Mhm.
close.
yes, it is close.
Yeah.
by the way, if anybody's been watching Shrinking.
Very
The
funny.
TV show in Apple, Wesley's been getting just like mention after mention after
That's what I
mention.
heard. What's the new season started?
The new season, yeah. It's, it's tremendous show. And as a Wesleyan grad. it's-
Ah.
So, anything else on your plate and then we can. No,
That's
okay, so
Okay. I went to the pollinator conference and I prepared today to talk about the bee portion, because it would take a long time to talk about I could do this part two next time about the native species and replantings, and actually, there's some interesting points there where I can suggest or after. Take out the invasives, what to plant
Yeah,
from Yukon. Depending on the environment, but today I'm prepared to talk about the bee portion, Okay, bees have been around since the monocots, which is 150 million years ago. Okay, so that's how old bees are. And there's about 400 species and divided into 6 families, and there's all kinds of divisions in the bees.
In United States or Connecticut or
Oh, in total in the world.
totally?
Yes. And, okay, so they're broken up into they're discerned by many categories. Some are eusocial, subsocial, and solitary. 90% are solitary. Eusocial means they have like a caste system, the queen and the workers. And then there's, subsocial, like carpenter bees, and they just have like their own family, they take care of. And the solitary ones also have their own nest.
So I can.
That's okay.
Carpenter bees, they're
They're-
pollinators.
They're subsocial.
Okay,
yeah.
they're pollinators.
Are they
I did
pollinators?
not even know
Yeah,
that. Okay.
okay. And,
guilty for spraying.
some bees have like a broad list of plants that they go to, but then there's pollen specialists. And they all have long names. I'm not gonna name all the names because they're very complicated with long names, but they some go to specific plants, like there's one bee, Andreda fragilis, that goes to just dog. And pollinates the dogwood. That doesn't mean that other bees don't go to dogwood, but just this specific bee goes to dogwood also. And actually, some of the bees' names are named after the flowers that they go to. And without mentioning the bees' names, but they go to things like marigolds, willows, violets, wild geraniums. Each of those have their own specialist bee, which I thought it just blew me out of the water. Okay, and so then. Some bees only go to one flower, but other bees visit. I already just said that. And then, I wanted to say that. They plant flowers, like for example, coral bells, to attract specific pollinators to an area, so that they will propagate the area. So they use different strategic methods to attract pollinators now. Okay? And, this people that study bees and like, for example, agricultural bees or whatever. I don't actually, people like UConn
Yeah.
All right.
do this kind of
Okay.
stuff. All right. And also, I know in Acadia, Maine, the people that came from Acadia to talk about this. They sell specific plants for specific areas that have specific bees.
Okay.
I mean, this goes very deep.
Sure.
Okay, and that's about it with bees, because I didn't wanna talk too long.
But
But
it's helpful.
I wanted to say that next time I can talk about all it's a really extensive list of flowers that they use. That they adapt to different areas of the country. And some of which are from places that had invasive species. They've been covered up with peat moss and then planted regular. Either they burned it or it burned by itself. Or they covered it with some kind of a fill and then they repopulated with native species. And so they've done extensive study which native species to put in which environment. Like California versus here versus wetlands versus brackish water. Things like that, so I can talk about that next time.
Did they talk about the whole, the crisis with bees?
Actually, no, because this was specifically about pollinators. Yeah. I still have the program here.
Did they talk about the type of bees that are, come to be in this area?
Well, they said that 70% of, Connecticut bees are ground dwellers as opposed to hives. And, they did say, you know, most Connecticut bees are, you know, honeybees, your bees, and we have something called, so what's the name is, something called berry bees. And
What?
wet bees, blood bees, plaster bees, longhorn, bumblebees, digger bees, squash bees. There, there's just so many, there's 9, like. By each family, one family has 97 species, and you know, they're so specialized, and there's so many names, the names are very strange, like Andrea, Vesmonioni, things like that.
Right.
So some of the flowers I thought were very interesting that they go to, like vervain, thistle, evening primrose, native sunflower, hibiscus, mock orange. These are the ones that outcompete the invasive species. They attract, these plants attract the bees that will outcompete the invasive species. So that's why, was anybody able to go to the invasive species? Well, that was the next.
Right.
Oh, no, that's too good. It's a good, that looks like a good follow-up to this.
I will say that getting clover in your yard solves a number of issues. One, it's a pollinator thing. But two, if you have deers or other things, they will eat the clover before they go through the plants. So it's an handy plant to have in your yard. It just grows naturally.
The red clover, or the,
Yeah,
yeah. We have a lot of that, and the bees love it,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay, well, thank you.
You're welcome.
No more correspondence? All right, good. Well, then I'm gonna temporarily move on and open up the subcommittee. And we have a forum. We've got Mike C. We've got Nick W. We've got Mark G. And we've got Larry O. I like that. And we're just missing, Mike 8, I think. So we'll, so that's the, thing, we just need to approve the minutes from last month.
I'll move to approve.
I second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Done. Good, aye, swell. And Mark is not abstaining because he was not here. Okay, so I talked briefly about it at the start of the commission meeting. Here's where I know it is, and obviously anybody else can chip in. To me, there's three main issues we're trying to solve. The first is the survey has been a real conundrum because there is a northern boundary that's very ill-defined. And the solution that the surveyor from the state proposed was to sink these 4 additional pins into the northern boundary, and that would allow our surveyor to redo the meets and bounds to describe it more effectively. And so, you know, we got a quote from the surveyor for $1,400. And the land trust approved spending that money. The second piece is we need to carve a trail through Eversource property to get from one land trust property, which is the Dow property, into the new property. And the only way to do it is to go through sort of the very forested Eversource property away from the wires. Rightfully so, they require a survey that sort of lets us know lets them know what we're up to and what we expect and, you know, what sort of liability they might have, et cetera. So, that was the second piece. We went to the surveyor for 3,600. They will map that trail out. Mike H., who's not here, and myself went out one very snowy day and tied rivets across the area that we proposed for the trail. So he's gonna map that and create a survey for it.
And that's away from the power line, so
It's away from the power
that
line
will
with,
present issues with the. power
yeah,
line.
yeah. It's close to the trailer park though, at the
Yeah.
very end. Anyway, so that was an additional 3,600 that the land trust approved spending. And that actually can be, part of that can be defrayed if we can get a Middlesex Community Foundation grant. Which I talked to them, they're gonna open up the next round in February sometime. So I'll put together a quick grant request, not only for the 3,600, but some additional money for. We have to cross a number of two streams to build the trail. So there's some additional costs in terms of equipment and labor. And so I'll put that all together. And then we'll hopefully get that done.
Aren't there places on the existing land trust property where you have to cross water?
Yes,
Yeah, okay.
and it's not really well done.
It's not.
Jesse Field Park,
Gotten pretty wet.
yeah. Depends on how dry it is. Fortunately, there was a drought this summer.
Right.
But yeah, no, so one of those things is one that I'm proposing that we build a bridge over.
Okay,
So, so that you can go right through Jesse Fuel along the, northern side. Where there's a stream there, you sort of go along the stream and then cross over. And then that'll allow you to get to all the rest of the trail that we're proposing building. So it'll be nice if we actually get this all done. The third element, and our attorney is now, I tried to do the nice approach to the trail of hope. You know, it's like this multiple shell companies, Evergreen to Bay Shore to some third name company. Anyway, I finally got to the people responsible and they were playing ball up until they got to a senior VP who said, I'm not gonna sign off on a quick claim. And that was where it stopped. So then I found out their attorney, I gave that to our attorney, and they're gonna have a conversation.
that's not property they own. right?
Okay. That is not property they own, but, you know, again, there's a thing called adverse possession. Which if they've been on it for 15 years, they essentially claim it as their own.
How did they hit the claim or something?
They have not,
Yeah,
but we haven't talked to their attorney either.
Right.
We've been talking, I talked to their community relations person as well as the VP, so I haven't talked to anybody that, yeah.
I'm just curious, it's cheaper for them to avoid trying to make the adverse possession claim, because it would be on them to pay and why. But rather than go through litigation over it,
Right.
they'd be willing to pay what the survey carve out.
Right.
I mean, that would be nice.
Yeah, so that's kind of like the plan B I suggested to Ken. The survey carve out as well as the quick reappraisal. It's not a significant part of the property, so it wouldn't be a really decrease in terms of what we have.
and adverse possession is not a given. They have to show that it's exclusive, that they possessed it to the exclusion of all other people. So most of those areas weren't possessed to the exclusion of everything, except for maybe the stair
Right,
coming down off the back of it.
yeah, no, and the stair is not, that's really tiny, it's the sheds that are further away from the house that are well into our property, that are probably a bigger deal. So that's kind of where we are. I have not, since I got back from vacation, I have not talked to Ken. So I'll reach out and find out where he sits with, the attorney. I have talked to the surveyor who is, sounds like it will get the survey, both surveys within a week, which is great. I was concerned with all the snow that it might slow them down, but he said it really would. So.
So he's gonna start
He's gonna start within a week and finish.
the both.
Is the owner's okay with redrawing their land boundary around.
That's-
Sunset
that's a
Coach
good
Town?
question.
Yeah, it's a good question. And again, I don't think we can actually do it until we own the properties. Okay. So
Will the state, is Allison aware that
she
transfer
knows,
may have to happen before? Like, the state's closing on the grant and the actual release of funds
right,
is normally predicated on this issue being resolved, and so will they take an agreement to resolve versus the Harris family?
yeah, I don't know what the answer to that is.
And that's something Ken is broaching with.
So Allison basically is willing to talk to us once we've got the new survey. I did talk to her, basically gave her a heads up, you saw that, I sent an email, gave her a heads up of where we are. And she's,
But Mark's question is really legitimate. This, right now, it's not a town-owned property, so how can we even? How can these people have any claim to land that's privately owned? They built their shed on someone else's
yeah,
land.
but again, that's the whole adverse possession thing.
There's paths for folks, there's paths for that to have to be
Okay.
permissible and they can claim and take that land, but.
Once we buy it, nobody can adversely possess against
Okay.
our organization. But it's currently owned by a private owner
Right,
where that can
okay,
adverse possession.
okay,
And we only take pursuant to what the owner has that they can give us.
Right,
sure,
So it's subject to,
okay.
that's what we're trying to resolve.
So
Right,
these
so-
boundaries you're dealing with, the new surveys are there as part of the plan. But wouldn't be implemented until post sale,
yes,
that's.
that is
Right.
correct.
Yeah, got it.
And then we would actually have to write a quick claim to the new owner of that little sliver of property we're basically foregoing.
In conjunction with an additional appraisal indicating to the state that the deletion of this small section doesn't affect the fair market value. That's big one thing.
Yeah,
There's the grant space on that.
yeah,
And then say come up with the extra. We're trying to wind, whatever it winds up being, they would to figure out.
Right.
Exactly there, it's like.
yeah, I don't think it'll change the appraisal at all. So that's kind of where we are. I don't know if anybody else has anything that. And like I said, in the next week, it should get busy. I should find out what's going on with the surveys. That'll allow me to go back to deep. Have a conversation and sort of, I want to have that conversation about adverse possession and things like that.
When was the last outreach to the families that owners?
Ken talked to us about a month ago. So they're aware. Ken actually asked for help and they didn't seem inclined to help on the adverse possession test, so. It's on us.
But, so. In. Answer to Abby's question, you're saying that they will, Eversource will accept. That here's our plan for when we do own it. In terms, because you're saying they won't give us that
Are you talking about Evergreen or Eversource?
Eversource.
Okay, so Eversource. They can give us sort of the wink and a nod before we own it.
Okay, that's,
And they will actually write to the state and provide
They will,
a, we have received a survey that we are generally in acceptance of once the property is owned. So they, again, they're another one that can't really do anything until we own the property. So again, those are conversations I gotta have with Allison. Once we get the surveys into our hands, rightfully so, she doesn't want to talk to us until it gets the real survey going. Okay. But, you know, Eversource was leery to give a perpetual right of way, so, yeah. We might have to dance around that issue as well.
I wonder why. I mean, how much property are you talking, how much of an easement are you?
It's 800 feet.
Okay,
820 feet, about,
then that's crazy.
and it cuts right through their property.
Right, okay.
But in my mind, it's sort of like this flagpole property, so it goes, if you've ever been by the property, you see the poles, the
Right.
electric poles going through.
Right,
And then it takes a hard right, which there are no electric poles in, there's nothing, it's just woods. I'm kind of thinking, you know, Eversource, can you split that off and sell it to us? You know, long term.
Or donate it,
What?
or donate it.
Or donate, even better. Because it's not relevant to what they do,
They don't use it for access to the power lines or anything like that.
nothing. So, so that's kind of where we're. If there's nothing further, can I get a motion to close the subcommittee?
I'll make that motion.
Second,
All in favor?
I,
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. And then I need a motion to close the
make the motion to close the regular meeting.
regular meetings. All right,
oh, I did want to raise one thing before we close regular meeting. And having, if, it's maybe a question you can answer, and I think, Mike, you raised it. There are towns that have dedicated open space planners who, as I understand it, they spend their time identifying the open space parcel that could be possibly purchased, and then approaching the owners, setting up a possible purchase, going for grant money. In other words, dedicated just for that, as opposed to a planner like yourself who's pulled in 50 different directions by all people who need a planner.
Right.
For their purposes in the town. And so I guess my question is, are you aware of these towns that have dedicated open space planners? What do you think about them, and what do you think the viability is of maybe the commission at some point asking for an appropriation in the budget for possibly a part-time or full-time planner in that regard?
So I think it's awesome. I used to be one, and so when I was conservation in Massachusetts, that was part of my responsibility, was all the town managed forest properties and, you know, sort of figuring out where the conservation commission up there would be putting its efforts and then all that kind of stuff, and then organization, all of that. So TPL and those kind of things. So I think it's wonderful. I think there's a lot of competing priorities for where the budget dollars are spent, and as the sort of reserve above, you know, kind of our minimum by charter, what we hang on to is lowered, there's gonna be competition and more competition for money without the rate going up, and so there's a political element to this that would have to get solved. This is more necessary than perhaps a town engineer or a full-time economic development coordinator, or the other positions that folks are competing for. So I think you gotta think about it in context of those things, but in theory, I think it's awesome. In theory, I would love it, maybe if it were combined with an environmental planner role specifically in my office, right? There's certainly tracks that I can see being of great benefit. It's been very clear to me that new full-time positions are highly unlikely in the next several years. That's not to say it's, you know, laying a foundation, and, you know, there was years where folks said there was no planner, period, that was supported in town, right? So, you know, certainly there's, things change.
So let me raise this with you. So because of competition for the limited town funds that are available for
Yep.
different things. If we wanted to push the Conservation Commission for the town to look in this direction, would it be better to start first looking for a part-time dedicated planner as opposed to a full-time?
Well, yes, and also I would think about how we can structure it as. First project based. Then part-time based, right, so project to consultant to part-time to. A little bit of a slower ramp up.
Yeah,
But I think it's a harder sell, but I don't think it's a bad sell, right? I think there's, because of all the competing, so I would say, you know, we know we need to revisit the open space plan. Right, and we know that under the new housing bill, we're going to have land use inventories and identify developable properties. And in that process, we may be able to take some of that data and mesh it with some of the open space pieces. And say, wait a minute, you know, here's what's being identified as developable, but look, it happens in the corridor we're trying to protect, or within a distance of the following pieces. And kind of, you know, kind of continuing on with the criteria that you already have for open space acquisition. And saying, you know, let's use some of the resources we have. So whether it's capital to say, you know, we know we can do this in-house, but what we'd really like to do is take. $40,000 is late for this fiscal year, the following fiscal year, to specifically update the open space plan. With a living, breathing document that is easy for us to use and has a tracking mechanism to put ownership in, right? And sort of say, okay, we're gonna do, these are the 15 properties we're targeting. This is how it's ranked. Or property owners and tag someone who is dedicated to approaching. Understanding if they have any, you know, rights of first refusal, or, you know, kind of where, you know, what they're, you know, open to. I think for $40,000, we can make a big chunk in that without having to hire someone.
Okay, so we would start in stages.
I would,
Okay,
yeah.
so, and that keeps the cost down. Now, last question to keep the cost down. To the extent that going for grants, a lot of work, as our chairman can attest to, and thank God you were here to help us with your expertise to move us along. Given all of that, is there a way to get grants, or are there available grants where you could have them give or partially fund the salary of the open space planner, because they are the ones that are moving these projects forward?
So salary and ongoing, kind of, it takes you into ongoing operational costs, so ongoing salary is harder for a startup year. To bring somebody in as that consulting phase, that you may want to then transition and make the case that person should be brought on as an employee, that's a way to go about it. There may be monies out there, you know, I think we can certainly look for easier money to update the plan, create the systems and do those things. And if you bring on a consultant for that, you can start to use them to make the case for staff.
Okay,
Yeah, but and to be competitive, right, I mean, you think about. The full package of, part-time is easier because you're not dealing with benefits, right? It's
Okay.
work that is claimed by one of the unions, is this, there's a whole host of things when you get to the employee side. That is a little bit harder, than professional services. So we can think about things like, do we. For a professional services line in the Conservation Commission budget. So we say, okay, let's get this discrete project done, look for grant funding. Bring in a certain amount of dollars per year, and perhaps the consultant that works with us. To craft the open space plan, if we want to go in that direction rather than doing it all in-house, which again, either way is fine. But maybe that person stays on a certain number of hours per year to dedicate to this at half the town. And that might be another way to do it, so that we're not operating on employees.
Okay. We're gonna keep this discussion going, but I
Yeah.
wanted to just get a start from.
I think there's multiple paths.
Okay.
And then laying that foundation to make the financial goal last is the biggest piece that does, that'll take a few years.
And I'll finish by saying the reason for that is that the discussion we're having with the land trust people, as well as our conservation people on the joint committee, is the fact that we are enthusiastic about moving forward on other open space projects. So to the extent we're gonna do more of them, and to the extent we know the huge amount of time it takes, it would seem to be the path to it.
So I think we need to look at now. What match money do we have for grants? And are there grants out there that do not require matches? What can we accomplish in-house, and what would we want specifically for a scope of services for consulting? to advance the open space plan and perhaps codify the policies that we will go forward with using this process as the example, and some of the stuff that work that's already been done. And sort of put this into place in a way that is replicable, you know, kind of thing. And we may have those, I mean, we may be able to find something where we can leverage resources we already have faster, you know.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
All right. So now I'm looking for a motion to close the.
Well, I think we already did that, right? It's been made and seconded. Now we just.
Oh, just need, is there any discussion about closing the meeting? Larry?
Did you talk to this? I did. Oh, okay, I didn't hear.
Any discussion? No? All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? No. Very great. Thanks a lot, guys. If I make serious progress, I'll send an email out.